Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and I'm very, very happy today because I'm going to be meeting as well as helping all of you enjoy meeting someone who found his calling in a way which not only connects him with his inner harmony, but that connects with him with the whole world in a very unique fashion, and that is the dream of being one with the world music. How that dream has traveled across many countries and has grown with Agney Mulay, who is finishing his course at Berkeley. What made him come here? We'll learn all about that from Agney. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us, Agney Mulay from Boston right now. Namaste.
Thank
You
you.
have to share being a solo performer or being a part of the band. How creatively it is a different experience for you.
Right. So I think I for the majority of my early phase as a musician, I had been primarily solo, and I think that's why I also wanted to learn guitar because I didn't have to depend on anyone else to learn the song that I wanted to sing. But I realized after a long time that there was something. It feels slightly incomplete in a sense that like to constantly just play by yourself because there's so many you can only do so much by yourself, right? It always helps to have, and obviously songs have different, you need like guitar, bass, drums and pianos and like all other instruments, percussion. You need to like, after a while it starts to sound, at least to me, I felt like I was doing kind of the same thing again and again, and I wanted to break out of it. So, but I had a band in Bombay for a short while. It was like the engineering college I was going to. It was just like a college band, and we had some performances in college, and it was definitely a very enjoyable experience. But I think in terms of the work ethic and actual dedication to music, it was not necessarily my favorite because I think they were more concerned with a certain kind of image, whereas I was more concerned with the actual music. So I think it wasn't until I actually came to Berkeley that I met people who are just as passionate about, actually presenting a good song rather than presenting an image of yourself as an artist.
I think
And
that's a very subtle side of you want to be seen or you
exactly,
truly are. That is the difference, and
yeah.
that difference I think is somewhere holding the seed of why you chose to be here at the Berkeley Music here College
Mhm.
in Boston. But it must have been quite a challenging task to convince parents who are into administrative services, foreign service, or Indian. I think your mother also
Right.
in the uh,
My mom
customs.
actually works with the Confederation of Indian Industry, and she's based in New Delhi right now.
Correct.
Yeah.
So when you have parents like this, I'm just
Mhm.
as an outsider, they would expect that their kids would follow their footsteps and would become something parallel to what they are. So was it easy or difficult for you to convince them that your heart is demanding music?
It was quite a journey of convincing my parents because I think it was also I had expressed some interest in engineering, and to them, like most Indian parents, it seems like those are the only kind of safe options that you will get a job, you will get a good salary, and so I was kind of guided into engineering. I did the whole IIT coaching, everything in my class 11th and 12th. But like the more I did it, the more it felt like this is something I don't want to do. And eventually, journalism was kind of like a compromise. It was still a slightly creative field, but also a respectable profession. So like I and I was while that was like a good transition in before I like went into music full time, because I also met a lot of people, artists there who were not necessarily musicians, but like in all kinds of creative field. Like they were mostly like theater was a very big thing in that college.
Okay, let's
So I
talk a
got
little bit.
yeah.
Sorry, this is a slightly different question, but because
Hmm.
you did your journalism and mass communication in Delhi, you also worked as a copywriter in Mumbai.
Yeah.
In terms of the journalism or reporting on music in India,
Right.
what do you see? Is there proper sincere attempt to help readers connect with the essence of music, or if you have paid attention to music critics writing
Right.
about some music programs, or trying to educate readers about fusion and all that. Um, so what has been your observation and any expectation on that front?
I mean, uh, it's definitely grown a lot. I think music journalism in India, because in the last 5 years or so, I would say it has definitely gone up a lot. Initially, there were only like a couple of big magazines, like established magazines, which had like a music. I think the Rock Street Journal in India is one of the like established names in like covering new music, and I appreciate them because they also cover a lot of independent music, like independent artists who are not necessarily affiliated with Bollywood and kind of doing their own music. So, but yeah, like in the past 5 years, definitely a lot of them have come up. I will definitely say that it would probably be good to have a little deeper understanding of music, but I guess it when they present it to an audience, it also has to be accessible to them, and it's not necessary that the every reader will have a deep understanding of music. So yeah, it's definitely evolving, but yeah, it has some way to go, but it's definitely better than it was 5 years ago. So
Okay,
yeah.
so now we bring you to America. Right now, you actually talking to me from Boston, but coming
Mhm.
here to pursue this course at Berkeley,
Yeah.
uh, it must have also had certain steps in terms of you're becoming aware and you're becoming convinced that what it offers would match with your expectations of
Right.
learning about music. And allow me to also add that we talked about your interest in Sufi music,
Hmm.
your interest in fusion music. So, how that um, kind of gave you a clear perception about your relationship with music, or was it confusing on some way, because uh, the way uh, they they introduce you to
Hmm.
music is quite different to my mind,
Right.
and sometimes you hear from some musicians that they would rather have purity of music, whether it is
Hmm.
Sufi or Indian classical, or so fusion takes you away to a different space altogether. So talk to me
Yeah.
about your impressions.
Yeah. So I think when I came here, like I think my first actual exposure to, or like when I found out that Berklee College of Music is a thing, it was when I believe A.R. Rahman had performed with Berkeley students, with Annette Phillip and her entire the Berkeley Indian Ensemble. Um, and they had released these videos like Ye Jo Desh Hai Tera and a couple of other the Rahman compositions. So like I was really fascinated because these were songs that I had heard in movies, but they had completely transformed them by using music elements of music theory to like reharmonize and reshape the entire sound of the song. So it was like uh, it was amazing to me that you can do such thing even with like in the context of like a Bollywood song, you know. So also I believe my dad attended that particular show, and that is where he met Annette and Clint. So he put me in touch with them. So I was initially hesitant to apply because never having actually studied music formally, I was apprehensive I would know enough to be able to get in, or like, all of that. But I think it was a bit of a struggle to get in with those limitations. But I think I convinced them that I was willing to learn, and I had a very like I had a past of self-teaching, and I just needed the right direction, and it would be very fruitful for both. So I'm actually a part of the Berkeley Indian Ensemble now, which is amazing. And in fact, the song that I sang with you, we were supposed to record it in April, but because of COVID, it's been pushed back a little bit. But yeah, so they give you a completely new perspective on things. And obviously, like when I started Berkeley, like I learned music theory from scratch, like as if I know nothing, which was close to the truth.
Okay, so you'll be happy to know that we know nothing, or at least I know nothing about the structure with which they walk you towards the
Right.
deeper understanding of music.
Right.
And since you are a songwriter, you are arranger, you are singer also, so having these three hats, how that helped you, or how that was encouraged in the environment at Berkeley?
Right. So I actually, after coming to Berkeley, I also understood properly for the first time that the term musician is a very, very broad term, because within music, there are so many disciplines, because singing and performing on any instrument is a separate discipline. Arranging is a separate, because you require an understanding of harmony and how notes interact with each other and how to make it best. Also, how different instruments interact with each other, the physical limitations by like the material they're made from, the range of the instrument, and I think Berkeley has a very obviously Western jazz-oriented approach to teaching music theory. So I was like, definitely, it was a big learning curve for me. But once you understand it, I believe it is applicable in any context. Like you can connect it to Indian classical music, you can connect it to folk music, because once you understand the framework, you can understand how it has evolved in different cultures, and how it's essentially like learning maths. Like when you understand how math works, that same sum or equation can be applied universally, right? It's kind of like that. Understanding how rhythms work, understanding how harmony works. I mean, I personally still try to keep studying and keep understanding, because while I was a student, there was a lot of information that was just kind of thrown at me, and it takes some time for you to be able to understand how to apply it.
So talking about applying and talking about how much richness we have in the world in terms of the rich variety in music traditions also. So when you
Right.
are having the focus on world music at Berklee School of Music in Boston,
Yeah.
was there any sort of demarcation with respect to certain countries finding more sort of priority in terms of the attention of the faculty, for example, Indian classical music to Turkish music to
Right.
yeah. So talk to me about that, and do they give you the option that you pick this, or how do they define world music? That also is a question for me.
Right. I think the world music term was created by, I think, Westerners or American to refer to all music that is not, say, European or, American. So it encompasses a lot of like Asia, the Middle East, and uh, in that sense, when you look, there are basically what they call core music classes, which is based on the jazz school of music, and like it teaches that. But like I said, that once you understand it, that can be applied in any context. In terms of Indian music, they don't specifically they have like very niche courses about like studying tabla, rhythms, and things like that, but not like a full blown course. But the
Yeah,
Berkeley
so
India Exchange is the program started by Clint Valadares and Annette Phillip, which is essentially they're aiming to make India and Indian music a bigger part of the activities at Berkeley. And on their own, they're already doing a lot, but they're trying to make it formally like a course, so that people can actually study that also.
So this reminded me that Ustad Zakir Hussain ji also addressed your group, I think, at Berkeley.
Yeah.
And
We
how was
actually
that interaction? Yeah, so how
Yeah.
was that interaction? Sorry.
It was quite amazing. I mean, just to be in the presence of a legend like him. We had especially we had many rehearsals before the show, so there was some one-on-one contact which happened, which was quite amazing. But I think the most incredible part of it was he's extremely humble, extremely down to earth, and still so joyful and essentially like a child at heart. He's very it's very inspiring to watch him. And one of the things that he said at one of the master classes that he gave was very fascinating to me, because he was explaining his own journey about how he got into music and how when he was a baby his father whispered into his ears like these rhythms that he used to play on the tabla. And one of the things he said, which was very fascinating to me, is if you want to learn more about music, I mean outside of structured lessons and all, he said you should try to talk to somebody who has not learned music but plays music. Because those people actually, in the process of teaching themselves, they sometimes discover things that not even your teacher will tell you, or they discover it in a way that is easier to access or easier to understand than just simply following your teacher's instruction. I thought that was quite interesting, one of the things he said.
And I know why you found that quite interesting, because you yourself were a self-taught musician in the beginning with your guitar and cyber cafe. So
Yeah.
So now, before we continue our conversation, why don't you give us a glimpse to something that we would say is your connection with the world music? I heard you played a Turkish, or you were singing a Turkish song, correct?
Yeah.
You want to share part of it with us?
Sure. I can sing a couple of lines. Yeah, so this is I'm lucky to meet so many people, so many talented musicians from all over the world. So some of my earliest friends in Berkeley were from Turkey. So they made me listen to this song called it's called İki Keklik, which means one partridge, the bird. It's essentially a folk song, and it's about just longing for your loved one. So the lyrics are literally just a picture of it kind of paints a picture of a person waiting for their loved one and just looking at the trees and being basically looking, anything that they look at, it just makes them sad and think of their love. So I'll just sing a little bit of that. Emine hanım konyak içmiş kayolada yatıyor. Yazması oyalı, kundurası oyalı. Yar, yar beni bozma. Yar, yar.
Very good, very nice. So this
you.
is eternal or universal feeling of longing, which came to us from Agney Mulay through this Turkish song. And you have played wholeheartedly at several places, and I see that it includes many performances related to your Berkeley events, but you have also performed for some fundraisers, including Akshay Patra Foundation. So,
Yeah.
and I'll also add that you have been a part of some bands where they create music from without any musical instruments, and there is a term that you tell us what it is called. And so, what that taught you, as well as your experience of having performed with fundraisers like Akshay Patra.
Right. So I actually I started performing with Akshay Patra a while back. I think I was performing at an event and one of their representatives was there. It was for it was a Diwali function, I think. But I got connected to them because they enjoyed my performance there. So they asked me to, I think, first asked me to be part of the Boston Galas. And like I've just been doing it. Eventually, they started calling me to New York and New Jersey also. So I have been performing with them for a while now. But yeah, sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Well, the second question was being part of the group where they create music without
Right.
music instruments.
Right. So yeah, it's actually something I had not imagined I would be doing, but it's actually a very beautiful form. Acappella is the general term where you sing with it's just a multitude of voices and no actual instruments. So I explored that a little bit in some student ensembles, including the Indian ensemble, because we have a band and a choir, but every week the band rehearses separately and the choir rehearses separately, and then they all rehearse together. So there's 3 rehearsals a week usually.
Can you give us any demonstration of that alone? I know it's a group activity, but
it is, yeah. So I mean, it would by myself it doesn't make sense because the point of a cappella is that the harmonies are created by multiple voices, and so it is typically something that you need multiple voices to sing.
Okay.
Sometimes I record things where I sing and then I sing another line on top of it to create harmonies.
Such a pleasure and joy that you could share your journey and also enrich us with your music. We wish you a lot of success as a singer, as arranger, and as songwriter.
Thank you so much.
Keep it up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure talking to you.
Namaste. My guest today, Agney Mulay, and thank you very much for being a part of this conversation.